The last bit. Say the last bit again. They never disagreed.
Again, two different canons, but they never disagreed with each other on the books. The Jews, the Israelites.
No, they disagreed.
They didn't disagree. Is it?
Would you like to know why they disagree? How they disagree?
Okay, where
the
did
evidence?
they, when?
Okay, in the
yes.
Roman Empire, most Jews, like today, don't live in Jerusalem, in Israel. I mean,
Yes.
they live in the diaspora, in the Great Roman world. Like today, most Jews barely live in America or Europe. They don't live in Israel. At that time, most Jews used the Septuagint. That's the whole point, this translation that was done. It contained more books than the Palestinian Hebrew original. So, it included Ecclesiasticus, this bigger canon. It included the Book of Wisdom. It included Tobit. It included a whole bunch of stuff written in Greek that's not in the Hebrew canon itself. So, the Jews did disagree big time in the first century about which books go in their Bible.
You just showed me that they had a different canon. That
Yes,
doesn't.
that's the point. The books that go into the Bible are different. And it
Again,
matters for
they had a
doctrine,
Septuagint
because-
during the Roman Empire, and they had Ezra's canon during the time when they left Babylon.
When you say Jews
But they-
agreed, but in the first century,
But you can't
Jesus'
prove
time,
to- you
Jews
can't show me-
disagreed. For example,
Where did they disagree though? Having a different canon doesn't inherently
the
mean
Greek-speaking
that they-
Jews tend to accept the Greek books in Greek, like the Book of Wisdom, but those in Palestine tend to accept the shorter Hebrew Bible, which didn't include these extra bits. And still today, if you look at a modern, the Jews tend not to accept these Greek books; they accept the Hebrew books in Hebrew. So Jews did disagree then. They disagree.
No, I don't care about the Jews after.
But you
I don't
said
care
that
about the
you
Jews
said
after. I'm
Jews
talking
agreed.
about prior, during the times of Christ and prior the time of
At the time
Christ.
of Christ, they didn't agree.
Now you and
I'll give you the
me.
reason.
Sorry.
At the time of Jesus in the first century,
Yes.
diaspora Jews used the Greek translation, the others used the Hebrew, and there were different canons.
Again, I'm going to say, having a different canon doesn't inherently mean that they disagree with each other on, the different books.
By definition, it does, because the canon is in the books.
It doesn't. Again, I will say. Are you aware of the epistle? He's a Christian. Are you aware of the epistle of Barnabas that was in the Codex Sinaiticus?
Yeah.
Would you disagree? Do you disagree on the epistle of Barnabas? Because it was part of the Codex Sinaiticus.
Is it scripture?
Would you consider it still scripture?
So I think in order for it to be categorized as scripture, it has to meet like 4 criteria, right? It has to be used in some churches for instruction. It has to be like at least dated to be within the first century for the New Testament Gospels, for New Testament criteria. It has to be tied back.
Sorry.
It has to be tied back to a identifiable apostle from the apostolic age. So if those criteria, then you could put it on that grounds. But I don't think was it ever used for tutelage in any major church. I don't believe so.
But
Maybe it was, I'm not aware.
Yeah, but it was used because it was part of the canon in the Codex Sinaiticus.
Sure, which is fine. But then
exactly.
which church was it used in? It was like, well,
No church wasn't using it because it was a canon for everyone, which was part of the Codex Sinaiticus.
We have an expansive canon. It's not limited to only
just because we have different
Different
canons.
churches in the early centuries had different books they accepted as scripture.
Sure.
For example, 1 Enoch was accepted as some. The Epistle of Barnabas was as well. The Didache.
The Didache is not scripture.
The list of
The Didache is not scripture.
the list.
Don't try that.
Didache was accepted by some
It's
Christians
not
as
scripture. Don't try that.
It wasn't. Well, okay.
It's not
I'm not going to
scripture.
debate him.
Don't try that.
Discuss with him.
Paul, don't try
But
that.
please don't lie to me because you
Don't
also
lie.
gave me some examples prior to this, but you wouldn't inherently show me
Prior
the
to
example.
what?
Like when him and me were talking to you, you gave us examples. For example, in Hebrews chapter 11, you said that it contradicts something in Psalm
No, it's a
22.
mistranslation
A
of the
mistranslation.
Hebrew. It's
But
acknowledged by academics.
you didn't show me.
Sorry?
You didn't show me.
Oh, I'll show you.
Oh, okay, show me.
Go for it.
Because you told me that you
And
couldn't
then
remember.
blind linear while you at it.
Then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord
Huh?
out of heaven.
It's going good. It's going good.
Yeah.
Open up the interlinear after that.
Rain fire
Just try to identify the passage.
Amen.
from the Lord. So the Lord rained something from the Lord out of heaven. Is that not implying two
Yeah, it is chapter 10. So it's Hebrews chapter 10. This is the NIV, which is an evangelical translation.
Let's not
Do you object to that?
Yeah, let's not use the NIV.
Yeah?
Let's not use the NIV.
Well, which translation would you like?
Yeah, let me.
No, just tell me.
Can I? Okay, NRSVC.
NIC.
The Catholic edition.
Oh, you're Roman Catholic?
I'm not Roman Catholic.
Why are you using a Catholic translation?
Because I've seen that it's more accurate.
Well, just use the NRSV.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be Catholic, just use the standard version.
Because I usually use that for the
No worries,
translation.
man. No worries.
There you are, Anglican.
Not Anglican.
Right. Yeah, this is fine. So this is Hebrews chapter 10. So, I mean, this is, I don't know if you want to read this yourself, but therefore when Christ came into the world, he said, sacrifice and offering you desire, but a body you prepared for me. This is the incarnation, yeah? With burnt offerings and sin offerings you are not pleased. Then I said, here I am. It's written about me in the scroll. I have come to you to do my will. So this is an important point of Christian doctrine. It's been predicted, prophesied from the scriptures. And it is Psalm, see the footnote, Psalm 40, verses 6 8. See Septuagint.
Okay, wait, close it. Close it. Let me take a picture of it. Close it.
What did I say?
Go up. Let me quickly change the translation to my. Can I?
I'm going to use my translation.
But why do I have to use your
because
translation?
it's my special translation.
Can I use my translation, please?
It's the NRSV.
Why don't you want to use my translation? Please, just let me. I know, but I just want.
It's the Catholic edition.
But please,
It's the Catholic edition.
but please, can I just use my translation? It's
This
the one
is your
underneath that.
translation.
I know, just the one underneath that. That's it. There we go.
There's no
Thank you.
difference,
Thank
trust
you.
me.
I know there's no difference. I
No
just want to
difference.
use it just in case. Just in
It's
case.
exactly the same as the one I've just quoted.
I don't care. I just want to use
What
it.
we arguing?
So
So
we've
coming
opened
here,
up.
we're looking at. Can you look up Psalm 40,
Psalm
verses 6 and 8 in
Op-
your in a modern
open up the
Bible?
interlinear.
In a modern Bible?
No,
Why
no,
not
no,
an
no,
ancient
no,
one?
no. No,
Because
open up the
I've
interlinear.
got a special
Open
one.
up the interlinear. He doesn't want to open up the interlinear.
Okay, well, look up.
I just read, I used to read KJV.
So wait, the Bible's been used, so we'll have to use another.
Can we use the interlinear, please?
No, we're going to use modern translation.
No, I don't want to use a modern translation. I want to use the interlinear.
You can research it yourself later
No,
on.
can I please use the interlinear? I'm going to refuse to
So
read
what was
until
it?
you bring the-
Verse
Sent by the Lord
40, what was
and His Spirit.
6 to 8. So it's Psalm 40, verse 6
I'm
to
going
8.
to refuse to believe until.
And it says here, there we are. In sacrifice and offering you have not delighted, but you have given me an
We'll read that
open
first.
ear.
We'll read that
Burnt
first.
offering and sin offering you have not required.
Okay.
You see, it talks here of an ear, which is actually the Hebrew, but in the Greek translation quoted by the Hebrews, it has body. This is a mistranslation, well understood by scholars, of the Hebrew original by the Greek translation. You can pick any translation you like; it's exactly the same in all of them. Thank you.
Could you open up the interlinear now, please? The interlinear instead of a modern translation.
Why don't you
Thank
look
you.
it up?
Fine.
You
I don't
can
have
look it
data.
up.
I don't have data.
In partnership with the Lord God and His Spirit.
So there's a whopping big error about Christian doctrine in the New Testament, improving a point of doctrine from the Old Testament that doesn't actually exist. It's a really important point.
Wait. Go back. Can I see it? Interlinear. Is this the ELX?
This is the King James version, by the way. You're interlinear with KJV. You might want to have a modern translation.
If you read,
No, it's up to you. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's the same. It'll probably be the same anyway.
Psalm 40, verse 5.
Oh, this is verse 6. It's actually verse.
It's
Verse 6,
to
verse 6, yeah? Verse 6 to 8.
6 to 8 in the Septuagint.
and he says it is not Savior.
Sacrifice
It doesn't
for mine ears.
actually. Because it's one being.
Ortion.
So hold on. In that verse where you, I'm the first and I'm the last. There is no besides me. There is no God. So you would agree that Revelation presents.
Is there a English translation? Can you see the Yeah. Okay. So what does this change? So what is that?
So the Septuagint has a body I have prepared for you. This is a reference to the incarnation. That's precisely why it's quoted. That's in the Greek, yeah, but it's a mistranslation of the original Hebrew, which doesn't have body. It has an ear.
And again, 6
It's a different, completely different form.
No, repeat that again. I don't understand.
Okay, in the Greek translation, remember the New Testament doesn't quote from the Hebrew Bible normally. It quotes from a translation, the Greek translation,
it
called the
doesn't.
Septuagint. Well, unless you see, this is
For
basic. This
example,
is basic
if
stuff.
you open up Hebrews chapter 8, we can see
If
that
you look at when Paul quotes from Scripture, what translation does he use?
we can see that he also uses the Septuagint. He uses the Septuagint.
Exactly. That's my point. The Greek translation.
Okay.
Yeah, we agree. We agree.
Greek translation,
So
okay.
when you look at the Greek translation, the Septuagint, translated into English, it talks about in Psalm 40 about a body that has been prepared. It does say that. That's not a mistranslation. My point is, and this has been pointed out to me by Professor James Barr, Professor of Hebrew Bible at Oxford University. So it's not my idea. I don't read Hebrew. I read Greek, by the way, but I don't read Hebrew. He says the original, as all modern translations of the Psalms will say, doesn't have a body. It says in ear. And it's a common mistranslation, a mistake you'd like to make if you didn't know Hebrew very well. Experts can see this.
Can you ask me to bring up, because I would like to take a picture
But
of
the
it as well.
inspired Bible has done this.
Because, you know, we also see other passages like Hebrews chapter 8, where we see Paul. Oh yeah, could you? I'd like to take a picture of that, because, you know, we also see in Hebrews chapter 8, we see
did you want to take a
Paul
picture of? The interlinear?
Yeah, the interlinear.
Oh, okay.
You can check this out at home. I mean, it's
Sorry.
in your own time as well.
Because we
Do I have any more
see in
around me?
Hebrews chapter 8, where Paul specifically prophesizes from. Where's Paul? What takes? Thank you. So again, so we see specifically in Hebrews chapter 8 where Paul cross-references from a prophecy in Jeremiah chapter 31. If we read the Septuagint, we see it's completely accurate to what he said in Hebrews chapter 8, where he says that the Lord had left Israel.
Right.
But the Masoretic text says that he still stayed a husband to Israel. But that isn't coherent to what Paul said.
Okay.
But when we look at the Septuagint,
Fine.
it's accurate.
No,
But I'll have to look into that, because I'll have to look into what he said, because we also
I'm worried
see
about is how you're going to process this.
Okay.
Because this is a real issue.
If you're supposed to like Paul, you're wrong.
I'm giving you some pastoral advice here. You may.
Okay.
Let's see if we can do it without getting sarcastic comments, not from you, but from someone else. When I was at university, when I was a student at uni studying the Bible in Greek,
That's what I'm going to do.
excellent. It was very challenging. I was a conservative Christian. I was actually,
you were, huh?
I was actually an evangelical Christian at the time,
Oh,
and then
really?
I became a Roman Catholic later. Anyway, I came across things like this, you know, in an academic setting, and I had to process them. This is going to be a challenge for you. It's a challenge for people of faith. Right?
Okay.
And I'm just saying, be prepared. Know what you're going to get yourself into, because it will rock you if you're not prepared. It will rock you like nothing down here will rock you. So that's what I'm saying. Because I went through this process. See, I knew you started
You
mocking
left
me.
Islam 6 times. So if you're
I'll move on now. Nice talking to you. What's your name?
That's Manuel.
Nice to talk to you,
Why have you
Manuel.
left
What's your
and
name?
come back
What's
6
your
times?
Paul.
Paul.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
I mean, look, very simply, if your faith will be rocked and then you will leave Christianity, why has he left Islam 6 times?
You left Islam six
6
times.
times.
Is it?
Yeah, the first time
Wow.
he left, he said that the Quran says it is easy to follow. When he didn't find Islam easy to follow, so the Quran was wrong.
He also
And
says
he said it in an interview.
he also said that Paul misquotes everything from the Septuagint. But we see in
That
Hebrews
Paul
chapter 8.
misquotes.
We see in Hebrews chapter 8 that is in like many other cross references that Paul brings. One example I can bring is Hebrews chapter 8, where he cross references Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 31 to 32. It's directly to what the Septuagint says. But when we compare it to the Masoretic text, it's not. Because the Masoretic text has unfortunately been mistranslated or on purpose by the Jews. I could say that. I could
You
say
can make the
that.
argument.
Yeah.
The Smarter makes it before the text is actually there, but the
Yeah.
Smarter already makes that argument anyway. You can make the argument.
But yeah, I also asked them to bring me the examples where he said that he also brought me some other examples prior to this when the camera came and everything. I asked him, could you show me this? Could you show me where you're getting this example from? Could you show me the cross reference and how it's wrong? He wouldn't bring it.
Paul just makes up some things that I think is going to support debate style.
For example,
If you're gonna be solid,
the exact book that he said here that you said that wasn't part of script, that wasn't
Yeah, he
scripture.
said the Didache was part.
Exactly.
No, it's not. No,
Exactly.
It's not. It's more of an instruction manual than anything. But yeah, you know,
then
Paul,
he was
we're going to
to
pray for you, okay?
I asked him.
We're going to pray for you.
So I also asked him to show me, like, I wanted to use my translation, but for some reason he was
Pray for Paul.
I'll
pray for you.
how should I put it in
But make
words?
him
He
do it.
was like scared to bring the translation that I wanted. But then finally in the end I took the phone from him, I brought the translation that I wanted, and then he wanted to go to the modern translation instead of going to the interlinear first. So we went to the modern translation. Okay, yes, the Masoretic text says that. But then the interlinear says another thing, which is accurate to what Paul says and to what he cross-references. So again, he also states that, just because we have different canons means that we disagree on the other books that are in different canons. No, just because there are different books in different canons doesn't mean we disagree on the other books in the different canons. We still agree on the books. For example, the Epistle of Barnabas. I have nothing wrong with the Epistle of Barnabas, even though it was in the canon of the Codex Sinaiticus and it's not in the canon today. I would still use it, no doubt. There is no problem with it. For example, you have many Protestants out there who would say it's apocrypha, that it's not divinely inspired. But if you actually read it, there is nothing wrong with it. So all his points were invalid. He tried lying to me, and he wouldn't even bring me the examples that he wanted to show me and try to disprove Paul and saying that the Masoretic text and both the Septuagint are not God-breathed scripture. I also asked him to define infallible for me. He wouldn't define it. I asked him, when he brought up the verse when Paul said that every scripture is God-breathed, he was telling me that doesn't inherently mean that it's infallible. Well, yes, it does. What else can it mean? No Christian debates about that verse. When I told him that, then he tried to divert from that. So overall, the man is disingenuous. He's, as David said, he's left Islam 6 times. That's crazy. Being disingenuous is crazy. But yeah, overall, I wish people someday would understand the dishonesty of Islam and would see that just because we have different canons, just because, another funny thing, he also pointed out because Moses lived from 3000 BC and there is a massive gap to the Dead Sea Scrolls around 300 BC to 200 BC, somewhere around there, when the Dead Sea Scrolls date back to. Just because there is a massive gap doesn't inherently mean that the scriptures have been corrupted. Because then I can beg the question of asking them, okay, you know what? I'll give him the point. I'll give him the premise that yes, say if it has been corrupted, then tell me, why should I rely on the Quran then? Why is the Quran reliable? The Quran doesn't have any historical basis before Muhammad. So why should I rely on the Quran? And yeah, the man is just disingenuous. That's really it. But overall, I'm not really good at articulating my arguments really well. I stutter a lot, and I hope to get well with my arguments soon. And yeah.
Good effort. You debated a seasoned debater, so well done.
Thank you.
Brother.